They say the ocean never forgets, but sometimes it feels like it chooses what to remember and what to erase. There's a region in the Atlantic Ocean where history feels incomplete, where reports end suddenly, where voices disappear mid-sentence. This place is known as the Bermuda Triangle. Over the years, it's become a symbol of mystery, fear, and unanswered questions. But beyond the stories and theories, there's something far more unsettling: official U.S. Navy records that quietly describe events no one has ever fully explained. The Bermuda Triangle stretches roughly between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. On the surface, it looks like any other part of the ocean. Ships cross it daily, planes fly over it constantly. There are no warning signs on maps, no danger labels. And yet, for more than a century, this region has been connected to disappearances that don't follow normal patterns. Not just one or two strange cases, but dozens. Ships that never sent distress signals. Planes that vanished without a trace of wreckage. Crews that seemed calm one moment and completely disoriented the next. Whenever questions were raised, the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard gave careful, measured answers. They said there was nothing unusual about the area. According to official statements, the ocean is dangerous everywhere. Weather changes suddenly. Humans make mistakes. Navigation errors happen. And on paper, those explanations sound reasonable. But when researchers began comparing incidents, something stood out. The same types of problems kept repeating. Compasses would fail at the same time. Directions would stop making sense. Crews became confused in eerily similar ways. And many of these incidents happened in the same stretch of water. One of the most famous and chilling cases occurred in December 1945. 5 U.S. Navy training planes took off from Florida on a routine mission. This group was called Flight 19. It was supposed to be a simple navigation exercise: fly out, practice some maneuvers, and return. The pilots were trained military aiders. The instructor leading the flight had thousands of hours of experience. The weather was clear. There were no storm warnings. Everything was completely normal. About an hour into the flight, the radio messages changed. The lead pilot reported that his compass was not working properly. Soon after, he said none of the compasses on any of the planes were working. He sounded unsure, then confused. He said he couldn't recognize the land below him. He believed they were over the Florida Keys, but other pilots in the formation disagreed. One pilot said the ocean looked strange. Another said they couldn't tell which way was west. These are fundamental directions that trained pilots rely on instinctively, yet suddenly they were all lost. As time passed, the radio transmissions became more and more disturbing. The pilots argued over which direction to fly. They worried about their fuel. The instructor tried to guide them, but even he sounded uncertain. The sun began to set. Darkness approached. The last known message suggested they would have to ditch the planes into the ocean when their fuel ran out. Then silence. All 5 planes vanished. No wreckage was ever found. The Navy immediately launched a massive rescue operation. A large search aircraft was sent out to the last known position of Flight 19. That plane also disappeared. No mayday call. No debris. The Navy searched for weeks, covering hundreds of thousands of square miles. At first, officials blamed pilot error. They suggested the instructor became disoriented and led his flight astray. But later, the Navy quietly changed parts of the report. The final conclusion admitted deep uncertainty. No clear cause was ever confirmed. The case of Flight 19 remains officially unsolved, but this was not an isolated event. Years earlier, in 1980, a massive U.S. Navy cargo ship called the USS Cyclops sailed through the same general region. It was carrying more than 300 crew members. It was one of the largest ships in the Navy at the time. The Cyclops was not in distress. The weather was calm. There were no enemy attacks reported, as this was during World War I. The ship sent one final routine message and then vanished completely. No distress call was ever received. No wreckage ever washed ashore. No bodies were ever recovered. The Navy conducted extensive investigations. They considered storms, a structural failure, even enemy action. None of the explanations could be proven. In the end, the Navy admitted they simply did not know what happened. To this day, the loss of the USS Cyclops remains the largest non-combat loss of life in U.S. Navy history, and it disappeared in the same mysterious region. As the years passed, similar incidents quietly continued to happen. Navy and Coast Guard logs recorded strange compass behavior, instruments spinning wildly without explanation, ships drifting miles off course even though their navigation systems showed they were on track. Pilots reported sudden, intense storms appearing on their radar without warning, only to vanish moments later. Some crews experienced complete radio silence for short periods of time, unable to contact anyone. Others described strange lights near the horizon that didn't behave like stars or other ships. Many of these reports were written in calm, technical language. No panic, no dramatic words, just observations. And that's what makes them so unsettling. These were not people trying to scare anyone. These were professionals simply documenting what they experienced. Some of these records were declassified decades later. Others were never discussed publicly at all. Scientists have, of course, proposed logical explanations. They talk about rogue waves that can rise suddenly and disappear just as fast, swallowing a ship whole. They discuss magnetic variations unique to the area that can affect compasses and navigation instruments. Some theorize about massive methane gas bubbles erupting from the seafloor, which could reduce water density and cause a ship to sink in seconds. Sudden weather systems that form too quickly to predict are also a possibility. All of these ideas are plausible, but none of them seem to explain every single case, especially when multiple independent systems fail all at the same time. The U.S. Navy relies on the most advanced technology in the world: satellites, redundant radar, multiple navigation systems, and highly trained crews. And yet, again and again, incidents occurred where experienced sailors and pilots became hopelessly disoriented in this same region. Directions stopped making sense. Instruments disagreed with each other. Communication failed without warning. Even today, some pilots and sailors will quietly admit they feel an unexplained unease when crossing that area, especially at night. So why don't we hear these stories more often? Because uncertainty is uncomfortable. Because large official organizations prefer clear answers. Because saying, "we don't know," raises questions that nobody wants to answer. Over time, the files are closed, the reports are archived, the ocean moves on. And the silence grows. Maybe the Bermuda Triangle isn't cursed. Maybe there are no supernatural forces at play. Or maybe it's just a place where nature behaves in ways we don't fully understand yet. A place where even our most modern technology sometimes fails. One thing is certain: when the world's most powerful navy couldn't fully explain what happened in its own backyard, the ocean kept its secrets, and it still does. The Bermuda Triangle remains open water, no warning signs, no marked borders. Just history waiting beneath the waves. Thanks for watching.